Hello everyone, this is part 37 of What If Naruto Passed the Genin test, and I hope you guys enjoy this video and to like, to subscribe, to share, and check out the playlist, to see more comment down below. Now let's start the intro.
They call me a god. They call me a god. They call me a god.
Join my membership, the perks are great. It's in the description. Be sure to like and subscribe, it gives me more motivation. Enjoy. Even the weather reflected Naruto's thoughts. Thunderclouds swirled overhead, regularly flashing with an inner light and resonating with terrific clashes and booms that shook the air. Raindrops fell from the sky like volley after volley of frigid darts, pummeling the surface of the sea and churning up the froth as the 75 ninja skirted across the tumultuous water. Naruto lead at the head of the column, his black cloak wrapped tightly around his waist so it wouldn't flail about in the gale force winds that raked the sea. Shikamaru beside him kept perfect pace with the caged Genin, and behind those two were 2 rows of 35 ninja, all dressed in identical black and blue-green camouflage uniforms. At the rear was Naruto's personal guard, the 3 sisters. Lightning streaked through the sky directly overhead the column of ninja, illuminating them all for a brief second before the flash faded and the troops fell back into the gloom of the inky sea. The clouds were so dark that noon may as well have been midnight, and it was already after 8 in the evening. The troops had been running all day across the sea. Thunder shattered the drum roll of the rain, drowning out all sound but the constant howl of the wind. We should be coming up on the first of the islands near Kiri. Shikamaru shouted over the gale. I'd recommend we stop there and wait for the storm to break. Negative. Naruto shouted back. We can take a brief respite, but I don't want to stop for the night until we're within 10 minutes of Kiri. Tell the Hyuga to scan the island for resistance. I'll bring him up, said Shikamaru, falling behind as the Uzumaki forged ahead, catching sight of the island in the distance. The strike force Nara had put together met with Naruto's utmost approval, and included 1 ninja from Neji's clan, 5 from the Nara family, and a dozen akamikis. Shikamaru reappeared by Naruto's side a second later with the Hyuga. What can I do, sir? Asked the nin, his pale skin contrasting with the black uniform he wore. Scan that island up ahead, said Naruto, pointing towards the shape in the gloom. I want to know exactly how many ninja we can expect to encounter once we make the beach. The Hyuga ninja nodded and pressed his hands together as they ran. Byakugan, he muttered as veins bulged beside his eyes. He peered out and squinted as the column came nearer and slowed their approach. I count 6, said the Hyuga, staring straight ahead. The island is 100 yards or so across and there are 6 enemy ninja scattered about the undergrowth. It looks like they're on patrols and don't expect any kind of trouble. Shikamaru, said Naruto, raising one hand and stopping the column's advance. All the troops just crouched on the surface of the frothing water, maybe a dozen yards from the beach. Take 'em out. Sir, Shikamaru acknowledged, silently running onto the sand and disappearing into the underbrush of the densely overgrown island. Down to 5, said the Hyuga ninja less than a minute later. Naruto looked back over the column of troops, grinning to himself when he saw how ready for action they were. Crouched low to the water, hands at the ready, eyes scanning the surroundings for danger and watching the men around to make sure all was well, they were professional and looked it. He caught the eye of his red-headed guard. She was watching him carefully while her sister's gazes darted around defensively. He nodded and in an instant, all 3 sisters sprinted to his sides. 4, 3, said the Hyuga, struggling to speak over the wind without being overly loud. Shikamaru-san is making quick work of them. Lass, said Naruto, very soon I'm going to need your help. Whatever we can do, said Trina. We're here to help, said Alicia. Shikamaru-san just got the last of them, said the Hyuga. Naruto nodded to the sisters, who without a word turned and dispersed themselves among the column of troops, directing them silently onto the island beach. Good, thought Naruto as he stood and watched his men slip onto the sand, the discipline among these nin is wonderful. Shikamaru did an impressive job picking 'em out, but then again I guess it's his job to be the spine of the operation. The blonde nin glanced up at the black sky and smiled. I can only hope this weather lasts the night, he thought as he joined his troops, running up onto the beach. Already the men were standing or at least breaking off into their pre-assigned groups of 3, 5, and 7-man teams, waiting beneath trees and against rocks hidden among the inland undergrowth. Naruto-sama, said Trina walking up to the caged Genin. Her fiery hair was tied into a tight ponytail to keep from whipping in the wind. What are your orders? Bunker down for a bit, said the blonde. But go fetch your sisters. I need to speak with the three of you as soon as you find a spare minute. Absolutely, said Trina, turning around and jogging away. What a wonderful night for a mission, Naruto mused as he walked down the ranks of ninja, smiling at some and nodding to others who either dipped their heads or bowed slightly to him. If all goes as planned, this mission and the aftermath will solidify everything. My victory will be sealed here in these next few days. Naruto glanced behind him and saw Shikamaru walking briskly up to him. The Shadow Nin was grinning just a little, which, combined with the soaked black hair clinging to the sides of his face, gave him a somewhat manic look. Just the man I was hoping to see, said Naruto, walking up to Shikamaru. Could I have a quick word as soon as the sisters get here? Of course, Shikamaru said over the wind. Do you still have that map of Kiri's territory? Asked Naruto, including the village schematics and the layout of the surrounding islands and villages. As a matter of fact I do, said Shikamaru, reaching around to his vest side pocket and producing a medium-sized scroll. I even went to the trouble of having it laminated in case of weather like this. Good thinking, said Naruto, trying to hide his patronizing tone. It's why you keep me around, Shikamaru laughed. We'll see, there they are, said the blonde, turning to see the sisters jogging up. They all stopped beside him and moved so the 5 ninja were standing in a roughly semicircular fashion, with Naruto at the center. What's the plan, sir? Asked Karena, the brunette. Her voice was unexcited. Shikamaru, said Naruto, holding out his hand for the map which the Nara gladly handed over. Naruto unfurled the slick parchment and kneeled down, setting it on a patch of dense moss. The others quickly mirrored his posture and looked down at the map. Scrolled across the parchment was a series of inked islands that made up the water country's central population center. There were 4 major villages, with Kiri being the largest and farthest north. The other 3 villages were labeled as civilian centers and positioned in an ascending line pointing towards Kiri. Scrawled in neat, small numbers beside the village farthest south was 1,300, the number of civilians. Next to the next village up was 2,200. The village just south of Kiri was numbered at 6,200, considerably larger than the other 2, and Kiri was listed to have right at 10,000. We're here, said Naruto, pointing to a small dot on the southern edge of the map. And we know from reports at the Suna battle that about 700 Kiri nin escaped the conflict, so we can estimate that the Mizukage left a garrison of somewhere between 300 and 400 ninja behind to guard the villages, if he followed the standard rules of engagement. That means we're up against roughly 1,100 trained soldiers in Kiri right now. He tapped the village with his index finger, and there are about 20,000 civilians standing between us and those ninja in these villages here, he said, swirling his finger in a circle around the collection of 4 villages. This wouldn't be so complicated if the Kiri nin didn't have all the non-combatants to hide behind. Civilians aren't a problem, said Trina. We can go through them easily enough to get to the real targets. If they get in our way, it won't be a problem to KO all of them. Naruto grinned as Shikamaru and the other 2 sisters frowned. That's not what this is about, said Shikamaru. This is a mission about harassing the armies, not king civilians. Shikamaru's right, said Naruto quickly before Trina could say anything more. He motioned for none of the sisters to say anything. We need to focus on hurting the military, not civilians, which is why Trina, Shikamaru, I'm hoping you 2 would be willing to undertake a small mission within a mission on my behalf. Name it, said the Kunoichi, her dark eyes lighting up with a flash of excitement. What did you have in mind? Asked Shikamaru. Well, began Naruto. Before we left, I had a letter written up and signed. I forged it by one of the Mist generals we captured in the battle at Suna. According to the letter, he escaped from prison and is now laying low in a small village a few miles east of Konoha and can't leave because the leaf patrols are too thick for him to slip by. He's requesting a small contingent of Kiri nin be dispatched to take out one patrol and escort him home so he can give valuable information to the Mizukage about the state of affairs in Suna. Shikamaru and the sisters grinned. The letter will draw some of the forces out of Kiri so we can get a clear shot at him, said Alicia, her voice a stark contrast to the gloomy weather. That's clever. I thought so, said Naruto. But the only problem is that the Mizukage won't be apt to believe just anyone saying he should pull some of his men out of his capital city after just having lost a battle. That's why Trina and Shikamaru need to be the ones to deliver the message. Trina, you're a master of genjutsu and could convince anyone that this is the real deal, and Shikamaru, he turned to the Nara, you have the political know-how to pull this off. Meanwhile, myself and the rest of the strike force will be waiting outside the village to wipe out the relief squad. Sounds good to me, said Trina. I'll do it if you really think it's a good idea, said Shikamaru, an undertone of unease in his voice. But this might be just a little dangerous, given the state Kiri's security forces are sure to be in right now. Which is why I need you and Trina there to make sure everything goes smoothly, interrupted the blonde. We can capture some of the ninja they send out and interrogate them. Information they divulge could make it that much easier for us in the future. I suppose that makes sense, said Shikamaru hesitantly. Though I'm not big on the idea of being captured, I'll do it. Good, said Naruto, taking a small white envelope from a fold in his Anbu uniform. All you have to do is deliver this to one of the Mizukage's aides and convince them it's the real deal. Trina took the envelope from Naruto and slipped it into her uniform before Shikamaru had a chance to pick it up. I still think it would be better to just directly assault the village and kill everyone in our way, said the Kunoichi, earning the disapproving glares from her sisters. But it's whatever you say, Naruto-sama. Naruto stood up and the others mirrored his action. We'll be ready to move in after things are set up, said the caged Junin. And don't worry, if you two are captured we'll our way in and do whatever it takes to get you out. You're too valuable to lose, and if you're not back in 3 hours we're coming after you. But I seriously doubt anything will go wrong. It's not a horribly difficult mission. The stakes are just high. That's all. Shikamaru looked away. Something's not right here, thought the Nara. When should we leave? Asked Trina. As soon as you can. The strike force will be right behind you and moving into position, said Naruto. But first, Shikamaru, I'd like you to thank the Hyuga for me for his services earlier. And good job yourself. Said the Shadow Nin, not sure how to respond. Sure, I can do that. Tell him I'll personally tell Neji he did well. As soon as that's done, take off. Sir, said Shikamaru, nodding to Naruto and jogging off into the gloom. Naruto turned to Trina. Can I have a quick word with you? He asked, his voice becoming harsh. Alone, he added, throwing a glance over his shoulder at the other two sisters. Karena and Alicia glanced at each other once and immediately began to walk after Shikamaru, passing by Trina and Naruto as they did. You shouldn't have said we should kill the civilians, said Alicia to her sister in an almost spiteful tone. Sorry about her, said Karena to Naruto. Trina glanced after them as Naruto crossed his arms and glaring at her. She swallowed hard but hid the insecure gesture behind a placid and easy face. What do you need, sir? Why would you suggest something like that? Asked Naruto. Sir, Naruto's glare hardened. Why on earth would you even think to kill innocent civilians? That's not our mission and it's not why Tsunade sent us here. Trina stiffened just a bit. Naruto-sama, may I speak absolutely freely? She said icily. Go ahead. Trina took a breath and looked at him sternly. This is a war, she began, not a political conference. Karena and Alicia may disagree with me, and I'm sure you and Shikamaru do, but if we want to win this war we need to hit the enemy where it hurts, and that's right below the belt. Naruto raised an eyebrow. If we can take out their workforce, the civilians, and the political nerve center, the civilians, and their food production, the civilians, then the enemy won't be able to fight back. If we burned Kiri to the ground and killed everyone inside the walls, then it would CSPLE more than half of Orochimaru's war effort. It would give us a real chance, sir. Naruto fought to hold a straight face. I am so incredibly lucky, he thought to himself. So many people are already of like mind with me. I don't even have to convince most of the people I need to control that what I want to do is necessary. So you don't think we have a chance as is? Asked Naruto. Frankly, no, said Trina. I may not like it, but I think that totally breaking the enemy in every way is the only way to win this conflict. And, unfortunately, that means taking out civilian centers. Call it morale bombing, Like what Kakashi did back during the war with Iwa. The fourth nearly court-martialed Kakashi for that, growled Naruto. It worked, said the kunoichi bluntly. A silence passed between the two of them for a moment. Trina, said Naruto in a low tone, barely audible over the wind. We are not going to harm innocent people here, unless you and Shikamaru are captured. If however that happens, I won't hesitate to into that village like a saw blade, and kill everyone inside the walls. Trina, I'll reduce Kiri to a smoldering ruin and not one of its citizens will get out alive, if you and or Shikamaru are captured. For a moment the kunoichi didn't answer. Her face twisted with a quizzical expression, until it hit her. Trina looked at the caged Genin, half-awed. Surprise was flashing in her eyes, but at the same time a dark thought that she knew couldn't possibly be true was brewing in the back of her mind. He made it sound almost as if he waited for an opportunity to attack. Of course once Kiri was destroyed, continued Naruto, it would only follow that all of the surrounding villages would have to be eradicated. This would, effectively, wipe the water country off the map as any kind of power. The Mizukage would have SD in Kiri, I could ensure that much, and the seat of the water's power would be utterly destroyed. What are you saying? Asked Trina slowly. Naruto grinned and stepped in very close to her, setting his hands on her upper arms and leaning his head in until his lips were merely an inch from her ear. His voice was hushed. Make sure Shikamaru is captured, whispered the caged Genin. Trina half-stepped, half-jumped, backwards, putting a few yards between herself and Naruto in an instant. She stared at him through the rain, shock on her face. They stood there for a moment, locked on each other's gaze, until slowly, Trina's amazement faded and slowly a smile, identical to the one on Naruto's lips, crept across her face. She relaxed a bit and her grin widened as did Naruto's. After a second, the same light of excitement was in Trina's eyes that flickered in Naruto's crimson irises. Yes sir, she said quietly. Good girl, said the blonde. Now, be on your way. Oh, and do make sure that you keep this little talk between us. SC. You'll have to forgive Trina, said Alicia, her voice level at its unusual cheeriness even as she crouched and huddled with her back to one of the moss-covered trees. She tends to be a bit excessive. Yes, said Karena. Even in her academy days she was never known for being particularly kind to people she perceived as enemies. I hope she didn't upset you, Naruto-sama. Naruto sat on the ground, his waterproof cape pulled tightly around his frame to hold out the battering rain, and leaned his back against the same massive tree as Karena and Alicia. The two sisters sat on either side of him, holding their cloaks around themselves in the same fashion he did. All around them, Naruto's strike force was broken off into the groups and huddled beside bushes, under the canopy of trees, and beneath the underbrush that covered the island less than a mile from Kiri. The rain was a constant deluge that rolled over the ninja-like waves attack a beach, and the spray of water felt colder than any ocean froth. The only thing worse was the wind, howling ceaselessly and driving the rain against Naruto's ninja, cooling the water even more. Shikamaru failed to predict weather this bad. Naruto thought it was perfect for the task. It's all right, said Naruto, holding off a sneeze. I respect her opinion even if I don't agree with it, she does have a point though. What do you mean? Asked Alicia. You can't be implying you'd be willing to an entire village. Naruto paused, pulling his hood down lower over his face to try and hold a little more heat within the folds of his cape. I don't know, said the blonde ninja. If Shikamaru or your sister is captured, I seriously doubt they will be, both are far too well trained for that, but if they are, we'll have to go in after them because they're some of our best. That would completely blow our cover and we'd have no choice but to wipe out the village. Kiri has far too many troops for us to succeed with anything less than a complete surprise attack, and if we give them a chance to mobilize we'd be outnumbered too badly. I don't think I like that, said Alicia. But either way, Naruto-sama, said Karena, countering her sister, you can count on us. We'll follow your orders without question. Absolutely, affirmed Alicia. I was only saying. Naruto smiled and glanced at them both. If worse comes to worst, I'll be counting on you three. Alicia just smiled in return and Karena nodded her respect and support. Naruto turned to stare out over his men through the storm as lightning flashed overhead, and utter thrill, unimaginable exhilaration burned behind his eyes. His moment was so close. The ceiling of his victory was in sight. A new world was almost born. It was tangible. Slowly, Naruto felt a presence taking shape in his thoughts, the familiar sensation of a demon's thoughts touching his own. You seem unduly excited, Kit, said Kyuubi. How will conquering this one village seal everything up for you? Don't get me wrong, I'll be happy to help us the masses, to soak the streets of a human village in the diluted blood of victims helpless before me. I quite look forward to it actually. The demon sounded strangely jovial. Naruto didn't actually know demons could be happy. But how will this do anything but remove one more enemy? Simple, responded Naruto, looking down so neither Kurena nor Alicia could see the wicked smile crossing his face, or the red hue that seeped into his irises. Kiri is all that stands between me and Orochimaru. The Crane organization is sure to send copious numbers of ninja to Konoha, that much is certain given their mission to hurt Orochimaru. They'll probably even try to start some kind of militia with Konoha's civilians which will free up enough ninja for Tsunade to attack Kumo directly and wipe them out before Oto can send reinforcements. After Kiri and Kumo are gone, that will leave no one to fear except Orochimaru, and we can focus all our efforts on Oto. The village will fall quickly before a completely unified Konoha army. I will be at the head of the army, you will be my right hand, and together we'll wipe the bastards out. Orochimaru, the fourth, and even the Kimimaro bastard will be powerless to stop us. After that, all that will be left for me to do is bring Iwa under Konoha's control, and that will be the end of the matter. On top of it all, I'll have Ino back within a few more days, you'll see Kyuubi. Everything is right on schedule and going exactly as I planned. How do you plan on retrieving your vixen, Kit? You'll see, thought Naruto. All you really need to do is be yourself and you'll know what to do when the time comes, which should be within the next few days if all goes as planned, which it will. Naruto grinned. He heard Kyuubi's distinctive chuckle, a combination of short growls and an almost purr-like sound, from in the back of his mind. You amuse me, Kit. I'm actually looking forward to seeing how this plan of yours unfolds. Given our previous encounters with the Hyuga demon, I've come to believe that you, with my aid of course, can handle the conflict. That creature is far too arrogant and predictable, especially now that it thinks it beat you easily last time, to pose any kind of threat once we face it directly. I agree, but I'm not going to underestimate it. The whole plan hinges on this battle here though, so be prepared to give me all you've got when the assault begins. Our first target will be the Mizukage's complex, where you and I will take out the seat of government and the Kage himself before the real attack begins. Once the Kirinin are leaderless, they'll be thrown into panic and disarray. We'll take minimal casualties and they'll be wiped out. How many of your men do you anticipate losing? Asked Kyuubi. I could care less just as long as the whole village. Don't worry, you'll get to do plenty of king. Now I'm not as geared towards this as Shikamaru, but I'm guessing we'll lose 7, maybe 8 ninja here while Kiri's losses will be total. So few. How do you plan on doing so much damage with so little loss? Naruto grinned wider as he heard frenzied footsteps rushing through the rain towards him. Kurena and Alicia stood up as Trina burst through the bushes and charged up to Naruto, breathing hard and stopping beside him. By letting you have as much fun as you please, my little demon friend. Kyuubi growled and laughed, pleased as Naruto stood up. I'm beginning to like you, Kit, said the demon as he receded into Naruto's mind to watch and listen. And I can't wait to play. What's the matter? Asked Kurena quickly, looking around. Where is Shikamaru-san? I thought, caught, Trina gasped between breaths. Slow down, said Naruto, feigning concern. Catch your breath and tell us what happened. Trina rested her hands on her thighs and looked up at Naruto, her dark eyes full of fear and anxiety. Naruto-sama, she began. The mission went south. Shikamaru was captured when one of the Kirinin realized he wasn't one of theirs. Shikamaru pretended to break down and began begging them to spare him, telling them he was spying on them alone and he'd reveal secrets about Konoha's operations in Oto if they didn't kill him. Muttered Naruto. How did you escape? I used an invisibility jutsu to follow behind him while they carried him to a prison. The whole time he was feeding them false information in fake hopes that they might let him go. Damn it, growled the Kage Junin. God damn it. I guess that's it then, we don't have a choice but to go in after him. Not good, whispered Alicia. SC. Okay, here's the plan, began Naruto, kneeling down in the moss and hovering over the map of Kiri. All around him were Trina, Kurena, Alicia, and the leaders of each of his squads. Everyone was watching him for directions with rapt attention. Naruto tapped on the series of buildings making up the Mizukage's residence and offices. I'll slip in here as all of you set up positions around the city and avoid detection. I can K the Mizukage quickly if I catch him off guard, and then I'll destroy the complex, leaving the Genin disorganized and leaderless. After I take care of that, I'll send up a red flare for all of you, he gestured to everyone around him, to move in and begin razing the village. Keep in mind that our goal is to get Shikamaru out alive, so Alicia will be leading her group to the prison. Here, he tapped a building on the map. The rest of us will be giving her as much cover as we can, by essentially burning Kiri to the ground. While I take care of the Mizukage, the rest of you will be sneaking up to the village, and when you see the flare move in, the Genin will be completely thrown off guard, and we'll have a perfect opportunity to knock them out of this war for good, so we're going to take it. Naruto stood up and looked around at all of his ninja, making eye contact with each of them and trying to convey the urgency of the situation. This is our chance, he said loud enough for all of them to hear, and beginning to walk among them. It's our chance to stop this war in its tracks. If Kiri is destroyed, it will ensure that soon it has her shot at Kumo. From there, a unified Konoha can march on Oto, and Orochimaru won't stand a chance, but it all hinges on us here. We have to neutralize Kiri as a threat. I hate to put it this way, but I have to be blunt and concise. If we want to win this, we have to K everyone and destroy everything within Kiri's walls. Some of the ninja around Naruto looked down at the ground and grimaced. Some clenched their hands at their sides into fists and trembled in the cold rain. Naruto could see plainly that none of his troops liked what they knew they had to do, but the resolve was there. They just needed a little more incentive. It's them or us, said Naruto coldly, nearly shouting for everyone to hear. The lightning flashed overhead and lit up the trees, casting long and eerie shadows over everything. Naruto's hands were balled into white-knuckled fists. Sooner is out of the war. If we leave now, Kiri, Oto, Kumo, they'll all come against Konoha and we'll be wiped out. They'll K all of us. They'll K everyone who doesn't submit to Orochimaru. This is no longer just a war over territory. Naruto's voice hardened and sparks flashed in his eyes as he glared out into the faces of his ninja. This is a madman's play at genocide. Naruto saw many of those looking down look up to him now. He grew louder. Orochimaru doesn't care about just taking Konoha's land, the caged Genin continued. He doesn't want our riches or homes. He wants us all. He's fighting to annihilate us. Orochimaru has disregarded honor and he's working tirelessly to K us all. We have no options. We have only the choice to fight back or else. We can't afford to play nice here. Unless you want Orochimaru and Kiri to wipe Konoha from the face of the earth, king everyone in his way, we have to stop him here. If that means blues our hands, then so be it. If you don't want to fight, then leave. But if you give a rat's ass about Konoha or anyone but yourself, then stay and do what needs to be done. Trina stepped forward, grim-faced but resolute, and spoke quietly to him. Naruto, she said, we're behind you all the way. Naruto looked up and saw that all of his commanders were staring at him, stone-faced. Every ninja's eyes were on him and every face was chiseled with resolution. No one was looking away. We'll wipe the bastards out, shouted one of the ninja to Naruto's left. No one messes with Konoha, answered a kunoichi from a group of 5. Naruto, yelled a tall ninja, shaking his fist in the air. Lead on. For Konoha. Naruto for Konoha. Naruto for Konoha. A cheer went up from one of the groups of 7. Naruto for Konoha. The cheer echoed again. Naruto for Konoha. The caged Genin smiled widely as the whole strike force began to chant his name and demand the destruction of Konoha's enemies. I didn't even think it was that good of a speech, Naruto mentally chuckled. You have your orders, Naruto said. The cheering silenced immediately and all watched him. Now move out. In a massive rush of wind that shook the bushes and underbrush, Naruto's entire strike force burst away in a dozen different directions. Every leaf on every tree shuddered for a split second, then went still. There was no evidence of any ninja in the forest, leaving Naruto alone in the howling wind and pounding rain. Oh Kyubi, he laughed uproariously in his mind, though his body was motionless. Can you feel it? Can you taste it? You mean the promise of bloodshed, the inevitable destruction, the utter ruin of an entire village? I can sense it, Kit. I may not revel in death like you, however, the promise of victory is intoxicating. Naruto disappeared in a blur of speed, rushing north along an invisible path. The trees whipped around him, then abruptly cut off. Waterlogged sand squished beneath his feet, and an instant later, Naruto was sprinting across the surface of the water, pumping perfectly controlled chakra through his feet to hold himself up. As he ran, not disturbing the water in the least, Naruto set his left thumb to his front teeth and sd the skin in a quick jerk of his hand, drawing blood which he let ds onto his right palm. Quick as a thought, he slapped his hands together and performed a series of quick seals. Blue chakra whipped between his fingers, and immediately the sound of his stride on the water, the slight huffing of his breath went silent, though neither one ceased. He was utterly soundless. Naruto pressed his fingers together in another set of 6 seals and more chakra sparked from his hands. Quickly a faint blue haze seemed to rush over Naruto and collect on his figure like mist, though as soon as the tiny droplets of energy made contact with him, Naruto began to disappear, becoming fainter and blurring into the background, until, as the walls of Kiri came within sight, the blue mist and Naruto were altogether invisible. The moonless mist technique may not be a true invisibility jutsu, but it will mask both me and my chakra signature until I actually use any other kind of chakra-based technique. Combining it with the muffled step and a little caution means I'll be utterly undetectable until I strike, at which point it will be too late. Naruto made the beach and rushed about 90 yards inland to the base of Kiri's wall. Said wall stood almost as high as Konoha's, breaking 100 feet at the battlements, which Naruto would need a chakra-fueled jump to clear, and that would break his cover. But he knew the main gate was sure to be somewhere around here, and he could slip through any kind of detection system since the moonless mist rendered him completely undetectable, or nearly so. The blonde Genin raced around the base of the wall and broke around a sharp corner, where he spotted the gate he'd been looking for, standing wide open and practically inviting him in. Granted, no less than 50 Kirinin of the meanest-looking sort stood guard and watched the entrance, but Naruto wasn't worried. There was a stream of people moving out of the city's forest perimeter and pouring into Kiri. He ran for the gate, not disturbing the mossy carpet that coated the island as he ran. In the darkness of the fast-approaching night, hiding amongst the people crowding into the city and shrouded by his technique, Naruto slipped by the guards unnoticed, despite their vigilance. He heard one of the guards shouting out over the storm and the noise of the crowd making for the city, but couldn't make out exactly what he was saying, so Naruto snuck closer. All water citizens arriving from the surrounding villages are to report to the residential district immediately. Naruto heard the guard bellowing as he neared. By order of the Mizukage, you will receive lodging accommodations and food supplies until the current crisis is over. The water country is signing its own death warrant, Naruto thought, turning his back on the man and jogging past the gatehouse, into the dank city streets. They're bringing everyone from the surrounding villages into Kiri as refugees in hopes of protecting a concentrated mass of people rather than try to defend a number of outlying villages and communities. To attempt a maneuver like this, the water country must have suffered losses at sooner greater than we thought. Yeah, they must feel they lack the forces to adequately defend all of their borders, obviously true seeing as how easily my strike force got in, and now they're making a play to defend less land. Does this make you think they're less of a threat? Asked Kyuubi. Not in the least, responded Naruto as he stopped in the middle of the street to look around. This is a move classically preceding an offensive maneuver. They're trying to defend less land so that they can free up more men to take the fight to the enemy. My thoughts exactly, confirmed Kyuubi. And it would be a good maneuver too, if there weren't a demon, specializing in mass destruction among them. Naruto nodded affirmation as he looked around to get his bearings and take in the city. All around him there were people in dirty, dingy clothes, carrying heavy-looking suitcases and bags, trudging through the city's muddy streets as the rain continued to cascade down. All of the refugees, men, women and children alike, wore similar expressions of gloom as the hundreds and possibly thousands of them walked all in one direction towards what Naruto knew must be the residential district. Lining the streets were homes and large, very tall apartment complexes that crowded each other and blocked out most of the skyline or horizon. Every window was dark and barred, and Naruto saw no one inside any of them, though he quickly spotted the numerous people sitting or sleeping around the buildings. They massed together with their luggage under awnings, next to walls and on porches, anywhere they were shielded from the rain and wind. Pathetic, muttered the demon, packing so many people into this kind of space. Look at 'em, they're huddling like rats and dogs in a storm. They are rats and dogs in a storm, Naruto scoffed. And this is one tempest none of them are going to escape. Naruto resumed his run, following the tide of people for a few blocks north, but abruptly he turned to his left and broke down one of the side streets. Even here he saw people sitting in doorways and under any kind of cover, but he ignored them. His pace more than doubled when he came out onto another main road and saw the tall edifice of a tower, the Hokage's complex, only a half-dozen blocks away. Finally, he muttered, "Now things get interesting. SC, where are they all coming from?" asked Alicia, glancing at her sisters, then turning to look out of their hiding place up among the trees at the huge flux of people. They were all walking slowly along paths that converged at Kiri's main gate. There must be thousands of them. The Mizukage is emptying all of the other villages, said Karena. He's dumping their citizens into Kiri. How sad, said Trina, staring down at the people and grinning very slightly. Looks like we won't have to go after all the others individually. Alicia glared over at her sister. How can you be so cold? Growled the blonde, her voice dark. Those are living, breathing people down there. Trina, I don't understand you at all. I'm not complex, said Trina, not looking away from the crowd. I want to win at all costs. I may not like how I win, but that won't stop me from doing what it takes. The ends justify the means, simplified Karena disinterestedly. Exactly, said Trina. Alicia turned away from Trina and shook her head. Not always, she muttered. Just follow orders, said Karena. Naruto-sama is your commander. And a genius, added Trina. He knows what it takes. Alicia shook her head again. I'll obey him without question. That's my duty, but I think he's a monster. Aren't we all? Laughed Trina quietly. With a loud plop and a splash, one of the tree's large leaves gave way under the weight of the rain, and dumped a pitcher's worth of water onto Alicia's head as she squeaked in surprise. That will be all for this video. Be sure to like, subscribe, share, and comment down below for more videos. Goodbye.